Hey, we're here with exciting new stuff. Yes, VR hasn't taken the world completely by storm, but we love tech and we love gaming, so damn it, we're going to take an excuse to talk about both the Oculus Rift S, which is essentially the update on the original Oculus Rift, but we're also going to be taking a look at the new Oculus Quest, which is more of a portable VR, but not crappy, apparently. That's the best way to pitch it. I have no idea. One of these serves as kind of an incremental update on an existing headset, and the other has some new innovations that could potentially change the game for VR quite a bit. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had here, so let's just dive in. First, let's talk about the Quest. Now, I've been in the VR scene since the first consumer models launched. I was Team Valve's HTC Vive. When I heard the Quest was to be a wireless onboard endeavor that didn't require a PC, I didn't know how I felt. I really prefer higher-end VR graphics hooked up to a decent PC. Obviously, that's a limiting factor for a lot of people, but I embraced it, I liked the experience, and just so did a nice little VR community along with me. But after diving into the Quest, wow, man, damn, I'm impressed. I did not expect the Quest to change how I feel about PC-based VR, but here we are. So the Quest is completely free of a PC, like I said. All of the game processing is done within the headset. There are caveats to this, of course. You know, the graphics are not as good as they would be if it was a regular Rift game running on your headset, but once you're in it, it's not as bad as you'd think. Games like Vader Immortal still look pretty darn fantastic, and I was able to be immersed in the world, no problem. I think of it kind of like as a game running on a lower end machine, like without a high-res texture pack in some places, but the quality is focused on where it counts. Sorry we weren't able to capture too much of this, but visually it is leagues better than like phone VR. Using a Samsung Gear headset or a Google thing to strap a phone to your face is a fun, novel little idea, but the games typically look like poo-poo. The Quest absolutely blows that stuff out of the water, so you don't have to worry. And what does help make up for some of the lack of fidelity is the freedom. The Quest has sensors on the outside of it to not only pick up where your controllers are and how you're moving your head, but where you are in your environment. This gives you that room-scale VR experience without setting up any tracking lighthouse cameras in your room, and no wires. Believe me, it does actually make all the freaking difference. The Quest allows you to do a sort of easy room setup where you trace a line around your play area, and then when you're in-game, anytime you're near that area, the game will put up a little digital wall to remind you. Now, Valve did this first, and I honestly like the way Valve implements it a bit more, but this is still a game changer regardless. Go too far past your Guardian boundary, and the headset-mounted cameras will kick in to give you a real-world view of your surroundings. It's good because it's safe, and you never have to really feel totally locked into VR. The camera's tracking is also pretty impressive. I made a pot of coffee to prove it.
That's a good start, come on. Oh, this is gonna be hard.
Oh god.
No, I can't read the lines. Time. We weren't timing, but did it.
I've only had one small issue with the controller tracking. 98% of the time, I've been incredibly impressed with how well it tracks my movement in a space along with my hands. Only once or twice after 4 days of playing did I have an issue with putting my hands behind my head. The games and Oculus use predictive software to make up for the lack of sensors facing behind you, and if this makes you skeptical, don't let it. It does a surprisingly good job. I was able to hold a lightsaber behind my back and deflect shots, as well as reach behind my back and pull out a big gun. It does work. And the controllers are light and small, and they work well, but I'll get to them more after I talk the Rift S, because they share the same controllers. The headset itself is simple. It looks nice, it's a little heavy, and it's actually one of the more snug and warm VR headsets I've used, thanks to the design fit and the materials. Now, one of the big things from both this and the Rift S is the fact that they have no lens fog whatsoever. I'm so glad VR companies are finally really nailing this. Quest does have one of the more generous nose spaces I've encountered. It can let in a lot of light depending on your face. It's not a deal breaker, but it can be noticeable at times. And on the battery life side, this thing has been able to last 2 to 3 hours for me, most of the time leaning a little bit more towards 3 hours. This is the more social headset. It's almost designed to be taken around and to show people the magic of VR. This has already proved some non-believers I know. It's also a bit of a hit with casual folks, and I'm just happy to show them more than just the phone cardboard VR thing. This is the real deal, and I can finally show them. Especially because now you can cast what you're seeing to a Chromecast on a TV in a living room, or just onto your phone if you want to show someone quick. This can make it a bit more fun for everyone, and it's a typical kind of casting system. Although it works great with Chromecast, it's a bit more of a pain in the ass than you'd expect for regular TVs with Google stuff built in. That was a little aggravating at times, but it's getting there. My big question for Quest is how much support it will get. We will have to wait and see if this thing blows up and if VR developers decide to support it, either by porting existing VR games or building up new ones. It does already look like there's good stuff to look forward to in the near future, like Phantom Covert Ops. That looks like it's shaping up to be really cool. We really have to wait and see if this thing blows up and if VR developers decide to really support it, either by porting existing VR games to it or just building up complete new ones. There are already some standouts, at least. The first episode of Vader Immortal is short, but sweet and kind of awesome, and I think this headset is the best place to play super hot VR. Having the freedom makes it a downright amazing experience. I know that sounds kind of like extreme and goofy on me, but seriously, it's good. The freedom is the selling point here. It's great for sharing, it's great for playing if you don't have a good enough PC, and it's even great for exercise. Yeah, people actually do that, look it up. I do wish the tracking sensors would work outside. That would be awesome, but that's a weird request, I know. Also, it's worth noting that with the Quest, you're pretty much limited to the Facebook Oculus ecosystem right now. With the Rift S and a PC base, you have access to way more, and you can fiddle around and mod and just do more PC stuff and have access to Steam games. The Quest limits you, so be prepared. But if you were curious about the Quest, I can assure you it does kind of live up to the promises it made. That's pretty crazy to say in tech, especially for an industry as young as VR, but I think this thing is a big deal. I'm surprised. It made a believer out of me. Now, onto the Rift S. This is an update to the Oculus Rift. This is a PC-based headset. It doesn't quite feel like an Oculus Rift 2.0, but it's more of, like I said earlier, a sensible improvement. Now, I gotta say, after days with the Quest before my Rift S showed up, jumping back into the tethered world seemed almost like a step back. The quality of experience with the Quest was so nice that it helped soften the blow that the graphics weren't as good. Like I said, I didn't expect that. Getting tripped up by that cable immediately feels like a step back. But still, despite that, you cannot deny the quality of experiences you get with the Rift S. The quality is a tad bit sharper, although still not seamless. The bright lens flare God Ray thing is almost completely gone. A big issue that the first Rift headset had. I think it generally fits more comfortably as well, but we've had disagreements here in the office. There is no IPD slider, much to the detriment of VR enthusiasts like us. I do think that is a weird omission and a mistake. Instead of a slider, the Rift S has a software fix to account for the distance between your eyes. I will say for me and the guys here in the office, we generally have an average amount of space between the eyes, and we have had no issues. But still, I wanted to bring it up. It also fits baseball cap style, more similar to how the PSVR fits, which I've gone on record saying I thought was the most comfortable and easy to fit on VR headset. I'm glad the Rift S took cues from its design, really, because otherwise, besides the fit, it's pretty unremarkable. Lenovo helped the design this time, and honestly, it looks like a plain Lenovo product. It's a step down from the quality of the original Rift, but that's just me. I'm a weird, picky design person. I'm insufferable, don't mind me. The cable is also slightly longer. It's also detachable now, which I think is a great change from the original. And the Rift S does have a slightly lower refresh rate, oddly, by 10 Hz. Oculus said it's to allow for more accessible system requirements, so look into that if you thought your PC wasn't good enough. It feels odd to have that as like a downgrade, but thankfully, my eyes and brain didn't notice a difference. Now though, you have the same tracking as the Quest, actually a bit stronger with an extra tracking lens, so you can do PC room scale VR without having to worry about any pesky lighthouse tracking cameras set up in your room. It's probably the biggest feature of the Rift S, and it works just like the Quest, and it's just great, like I said earlier. Also, being able to use Steam VR is a nice plus. You might have some Steam games in your library that work in VR and will be compatible. Thank God these things have opened up their ecosystems a bit. It's now one of the best parts about PC VR, you know, the tweaking and stuff, and being able to leave the Rift ecosystem a bit is nice. Now, the controllers are redesigned and don't work with the original Rift, but besides the different positioning, the implementation here does make sense. The controller can track your grip, your pointer finger, and your thumb independently, along with having a joystick and 2 regular buttons. I enjoy how light and small they are and the fact that they take regular batteries so they'll last a decent length. The only issue with both the Quest and the Rift S controllers is that the battery covers can slide off pretty easily if you play intensely, so be careful. That's a weird quirk and I'm not into it. But this is a nice improvement over the original Oculus Rift. If you own a Rift, maybe not run out and get it, but if the room scale thing is something you really want and you don't want to deal with lighthouses, consider it. Because the tracking and movement is the game changer, but otherwise it's just an Oculus headset like you've seen before. It's still all about the games, really, and things for VR are getting better. But that's a whole nother video. This is really just hardware talk. So that's where we're at in terms of like hardware review, evaluation, insight. Personally, as much as I am, like I've said, a VR snob, the index, the high quality, all that Vive stuff really interests me. But I think the Quest is onto something here because it's the first wireless VR headset that I think is actually worth a damn to someone who is actually a VR enthusiast. They are priced the same, which is crazy considering what the Quest can do on board. I think is very interesting. Personally, what I would love is a Nintendo Switch hybrid version where you can have it portable on the go with downgraded graphics and then plug it into a PC and get the real experience. That is, of course, wishful thinking. I would love to see that one day, but that's all the information. That's some pros, some cons, and some personal opinions. So now I want to know what you guys are thinking about these headsets down in the comments. Now look, I know VR isn't for everyone. I know a lot of people out there aren't into it, but for the enthusiasts that are, the people that do enjoy this stuff like me, I want to know what you guys think about this new change up in headsets. Maybe you're not in this headset scene at all. Maybe you're not into Oculus and Facebook. Maybe you're more of a Valve person, or maybe you use mixed reality headsets. Whoever you are, if you want to talk about this tech stuff, let's talk about it down in the comments below. But of course, if you got anything else for me, as usual, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Baldino. But thank you guys for coming around and watching this. Honestly, we know that the VR videos are going to get less views, but we just have a big passion for this stuff, so we make these videos anyway. So thank you if you watch. Clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, you should consider subscribing because we put out videos every single day, but also you're joining an army of 5 million subscribers strong, which is crazy. Thank you guys for being here. But as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.